Julian Hernandez was in the legal custody of his mother when he vanished in Alabama back in August of 2002. At the time, he was just 5 years of age.
The stories of missing people are filled with uncertainty.
I've never done this before.
But sometimes, against all odds, the impossible happens.
Incredible. It's the second best moment of my life, first being the day that he was born.
And after years, even decades, these long-lost loved ones are found.
Pieced together the story of two sisters separated when they were just toddlers, but after more than 40 years, they found each other again.
It's an emotional journey, and for every story of heartbreak, there is a story of joy and love rediscovered. So join us till the end and witness all these twists of fate.
We're very happy and excited that he made it safe. We couldn't believe ourselves, we're worried until last minute we saw them.
I just got to get obs on the...
Get on the siren, get on the PA and tell them...
Anthony A.J. Elfalak, a boy with autism who doesn't speak, went missing back in September 2021 from his family's remote home near the village of Putty, north of Sydney, Australia. His disappearance set off a large search effort, with hundreds of people involved searching through the tough Australian wilderness around his home. 3 days later, a police helicopter found AJ sitting in a creek, just 470 meters from his home, drinking water from his hands. Despite being lost for several days, AJ was safe and in good health when found, thanks to the search team's persistence and the helicopter that spotted him in the thick woodland.
21.61.
Boy reunited.
I had a strong feeling that it was, but I was questioning my instincts. I was starting to...
In late March 2021, 3-year-old Noah was kidnapped by his father during a scheduled visitation in Kansas. Involved in a custody dispute, Noah's father took him and fled to California. An Amber Alert was issued after Noah went missing. For nearly 2 weeks, his father drove across the country, but they were eventually spotted by a Good Samaritan in Los Angeles, who recognized them from the alert. Authorities were notified, leading to Noah's safe rescue at a motel. When Noah was reunited with his mother, the emotional moment was captured on video, with Noah running down a hallway and jumping into her arms. The rescue was celebrated nationwide, with police and the Good Samaritan playing key roles in bringing Noah home safely.
It's incredible. It's the second best moment of my life, first being the day that he was born.
Missing girl. Kayla Unbahon, who had been missing since 2017, was found in 2022 after being recognized by a viewer of Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries. Kayla was abducted by her mother, Heather Unbahon, during a scheduled visitation in July 2017 after a custody dispute between Heather and Kayla's father. The two were last seen in Illinois, and authorities issued an Amber Alert. Despite efforts to locate them, Kayla remained missing for nearly 5 years. In 2022, after Kayla's case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, a viewer in North Carolina saw her and recognized her from the show. The viewer contacted authorities, leading to Kayla's rescue. Kayla, who was 15 years old at the time of her discovery, was safely returned to her father, and her mother was arrested and charged with kidnapping. Sisters reunion.
Remarkable story about love, loss, DNA, and determination. CBS 4 investigator Brian Moss has pieced together the story of two sisters separated when they were just toddlers, but after more than 40 years, they found each other again.
A Denver woman, Bernie Slowey, was reunited with her sister, Vanessa Rose, after 44 years of separation, which began during the chaos of the Vietnam War. In the final days before Saigon fell, Bernie's family was airlifted to the U.S., but her younger sister, just a toddler at the time, was left behind. Vanessa was later found wandering the streets of Saigon and was adopted by a Vietnamese woman who brought her to the U.S. When Vanessa grew older, she discovered the truth about her adoption and, in 2018, took a DNA test that eventually led her to Bernie. In January 2019, after confirming their relationship, Vanessa flew from California to Denver, where they were joyously reunited.
I don't know how long you've been searching, but for me, it's been a very long time. So these last 36 hours, I still can't believe it. It's surreal that you're here sitting next to me.
Mother reunion.
She said, how did you meet her? I said, oh, initially through political organizing, but we also have kids the same age and live nearby each other. And then she said, what do you know about her kids? And there was a pause, and then she said, Sunday, those are my kids.
Amy Gilchrist, an egg donor, spent 20 years wondering about her biological children. She had a strong feeling that twins were conceived from her donation. After finding an old thank you card from the recipient, she decided to contact the medical center, revealing important health details. This led to discovering that the recipient's children, Nabila and Faudel Reef, were searching for their biological mother. The reunion was a shock to everyone involved, but led to a heartfelt connection, with the two families bonding over time, especially during holidays.
She looked her up, the name on Facebook up and found her instantly, and we were like, holy crap, so that makes sense. That's where your nose is. Look, that's your nose. That's my nose.
A 32-year wait.
A Chinese man kidnapped 32 years ago as a toddler was reunited with his biological family Monday, and it was thanks to facial recognition technology.
This Chinese man, Mao Yin, was reunited with his biological parents after 32 years of separation. Kidnapped when he was just 2 years old in 1988, his mother, Li Jingxi, spent decades searching for him, following countless leads with no success. But in 2020, DNA testing confirmed that a man in Chengdu, known as Jia, was her son. The heartwarming reunion was broadcasted, and Li became a voice for families in China who have lost children. Mao, now an adult, spoke about growing up with his foster parents and finally understanding that he wasn't abandoned. Life is quite unpredictable, isn't it? Miraculous reunion.
It's been an emotional 2 days for Delft mother Jane Daniels, who's traveled more than 1,800 kilometers from her home in Delft to the Ossuk border post.
This story is seriously mind-blowing. Denzel Daniels, missing for 6 long years, finally reunited with his mother, Jane, who had feared the worst in 2019. Jane last saw her son outside their home in Delft, Cape Town, before he vanished without a trace. After years of heartbreak and even holding a memorial service, Jane received the unbelievable news. Denzel was alive and in Eswatini. Thanks to the kindness of police officers and human aid groups, Jane traveled over 1,800 kilometers to bring her son home. Though the details of Denzel's disappearance remain a mystery, Jane is overjoyed to have him back. Honestly, it's hard not to get emotional over this one. Home after 33 years. In an incredible turn of events, Li Jingwei, who was kidnapped when he was just 4 years old, reunited with his biological family after 33 years. Abducted from his home in Yunnan Province, China, in 1989, Li was sold far away in Henan. After seeing news reports about other similar cases being solved, Li started creating hand-drawn maps of his childhood village from memory, hoping to reconnect. Thanks to these maps and DNA testing, police confirmed that Li was indeed the missing son. Now 37 and a father of 2, Li plans to bring his mom back to Yunnan to celebrate the Lunar New Year with his family. What a reunion! Toddler back home.
Father is under arrest. Police say he took the boy to Mexico. Ken McLeod's in Lowell tonight, where the baby's mother is breathing a big sigh of relief.
Back in 2019, a 14-month-old toddler named Julian reunited with his mother, Mihalia Paj, after 6 painful weeks. Julian was taken by his father, who fled to Mexico City in an alleged kidnapping. What led to their reunion? Well, the father's taunting posts on Facebook gave investigators the digital breadcrumbs they needed to track him down. With help from federal agents and Lowell police, Mihalia traveled to Mexico to bring her son home. Though she missed some milestones, like Julian's first steps, Mihalia is just happy to have her baby back. Woohoo! Love wins again.
I don't think he knew he was being chased because I don't think he'd be sending me pictures of videos.
Missing Alabama boy.
Julian Hernandez was in the legal custody of his mother when he vanished in Alabama back in August of 2002. At the time, he was just 5 years of age.
In November 2015, Julian Hernandez, an 18-year-old from Ohio, made a surprising discovery about his identity while applying for college. He came to know that he was classified as a missing person from Alabama and had been reported missing 13 years earlier, in 2002. At that time, his mother had reported him missing after his father took him without permission. Julian grew up unaware of his status as missing, as his father had created a false identity for him. When Julian's social security number didn't match official records during his college application, it triggered further investigation, which revealed the truth. Authorities confirmed that his father had taken him, and the discovery ultimately led to a reunion with Julian's mother. His father was later arrested for kidnapping and using false identification. I'm alive.
You never give up hope. I never stopped looking for Emily. I never stopped thinking about her. I can remember going out into crowds of people, and you look at every girl who passes who's around that age.
Emily Paul, a girl from Tallahassee, Florida, went missing in 2013 under mysterious circumstances. She disappeared from her home, and despite an extensive search and media attention, she was not found. The case went cold, and for 5 years, her family had no answers. In 2018, Emily sent a letter to her family informing them that she was alive and well, but chose not to disclose her whereabouts or provide further details about her time away. Her family, who had never given up hope of finding her, were relieved and overjoyed at the news. As of now, the full circumstances of Emily's disappearance and her reasons for leaving remain unclear, and there have been no significant public updates since the letter.
In the letter, she basically said, yeah, I'm okay, I'm 19, I'm safe, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm where I want to be.
Vietnam reunion. Kim was a young teenager who worked as a maid for an American family in Saigon, helping support her poor family. The family later brought her to the U.S., but she was isolated, unable to go to school or leave the house. After escaping, she lost contact with her family. Years later, a clue from the family's son helped someone track down her past, leading to a reunion with her roots and uncovering the story of what had happened to her during all those lost years. Long-lost siblings.
Just being able to see them and hug them for the first time felt like home.
Christina Sadberry and Raymond Turner were unknowingly siblings who had crossed paths many times before learning of their connection. Christina, who had been visiting Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth, Texas, for medical treatments, would walk past Raymond Turner's office over the course of 7 years. They did not know they were related until Christina took a DNA test in 2020 as part of a search for her biological family. The test revealed that she and Raymond shared the same biological father. After confirming their relationship, they learned they were half-siblings. Both were adopted, and their reunion was a surprising and emotional moment because they had been so close to each other for many years without knowing they were family.
You can imagine the shock and awe and surprise and just the wonderful emotions of realizing that, you know, I had a sister that I didn't know about. We're just so thankful and so grateful.
Reunion after 20 years.
Holly had a child 20 years ago on Thanksgiving Day. Holly gave this sweet boy up for adoption, and since then, every birthday, holiday, she has thought about the child she has given up for adoption. She wanted to find him, but wasn't sure, how he would feel about it.
Benjamin Holberg was reunited with his birth mother, Holly Shearer, after 2 decades of searching. Holly, who had placed him for adoption at the age of 15, had always wondered about him. She found Benjamin on social media when he was 18, but hesitated to reach out. Finally, on his 20th birthday, Holly sent him a heartfelt message. Their reunion in November 2021 was emotional and fulfilling as they not only reconnected, but discovered they had unknowingly worked at the same hospital, St. Mark's Hospital in Salt Lake City. Benjamin had volunteered in the NICU, while Holly worked as a medical assistant. This twist made their reunion even more surreal. 8 siblings.
My father said to me just before he passed away that you are not our biological child. I was in shock.
Richard Young, who had been adopted as a child, spent years searching for his birth family. His quest for answers led to a surprising and emotional reunion at the age of 59. In December 2021, he found his 8 biological siblings through an online search for his mother's name, which he combined with an obituary. Among the siblings he discovered was his older brother, Tom Wong, a retired fighter pilot who had once been Richard's superior in the Republic of Singapore Air Force. Their reunion was a heartwarming moment, with no DNA test needed, as Richard resembled one of his brothers. The reunion brought closure for Richard, and he was welcomed with warmth by his family.
So I felt like I've been born again. I'm able to breathe again, and I only wish that I can relive this part of childhood. What is it like to be part of a big family like this?
Vanishing mom.
There's just no way out of it, because you just can't comprehend that somebody's somewhere but you don't know where. It's like, how can you disappear in Australia?
Vera Daisy Brown was an ordinary country housewife and mother of 3 who, to everyone's surprise, vanished in 1975 without a trace. She left behind no clues, no note, no phone call, no explanation, leaving her family in a state of confusion and worry for 32 long years. Her family had no idea if she was alive, why she had left, or where she could be. They feared they might never find answers to these questions. But after over 3 decades of mystery, the police reached out to the family in 2007 with stunning news. Vera was alive. Her story, after all those years of silence, turned out to be extraordinary and beyond anything her family could have expected.
After all these bloody years. I've never done this before, but I'm going to pick me mum up. I'm going to pick her up, hey. Look at me mum.
Reunited at last.
Now you've met my family. She immediately replied, our family.
Irene and Berthold, siblings separated during World War II, were reunited in 2021 after nearly 80 years apart. After being orphaned during the war, they were placed in different orphanages and lost contact. Their reunion was made possible by an amateur researcher in the United States who used DNA testing to connect with Berthold's family. The research led to a match, and once connected, Irene and Berthold were able to meet virtually. Their emotional reunion marked the end of a long search as they finally reconnected decades after the war tore them apart.
There was 42 crew and only 5 survivors. When the torpedo hit the Iron Crown, it sunk in 60 seconds.
Surprising reunion.
After about 16 pages of scouring through names and photographs and trying to find something that might match up, came up with the name Connor Jack Oswalt.
Connor Jack Oswalt, a teenager with autism, was reported missing from Clear Lake, California on September 29th, 2019. He was last seen in nearby Willows, California, but disappeared without a trace. In 2022, reports surfaced about a man seen pushing a shopping cart in Summit County, Utah. Deputies checked on him but didn't learn his identity. In January 2023, after a call about a man sleeping outside in Jeremy Ranch, Utah, deputies were able to identify him as Connor Jack. After confirming his identity, authorities contacted his family, who had relocated to Idaho after their California home was damaged by a wildfire. Connor Jack was reunited with his family, ending the nearly 4-year search.
We're just grateful that he is safe, he's alive, and we have our son back. That's the most important thing ever for us.
Mother's Day gift.
Oh my God, who has a Denver bag?
This year, on Mother's Day, a son planned a surprise that his mother would never forget. Without telling her he was coming, he traveled home, quietly approaching her from behind. When she saw him, she froze in disbelief, then rushed into his arms, overcome with emotion. Tears flowed as they held each other, with the mother's joy written all over her face. This was a joy that no one could feel more deeply than that mother. Rescue Girl. In 1986, Desiree Rodriguez, a 9-year-old, was the only survivor of a ship incident that happened off California's coast. 2 charter boat captains, Paul Strasser and Mark Pisano, discovered her floating in the ocean and rescued her. The wreck claimed her family, leaving Desiree with no memory of what happened. For years, the two rescuers lost contact with her. However, in 2020, a podcast about the rescue sparked a search that led to her reunion with the men who saved her. Desiree, now known as Desiree Campuzano, expressed deep gratitude for them, and they shared an emotional reunion. She still maintains a close relationship with Strasser and Pisano, who regard her like family. Lost man.
Ontario man who vanished without a trace 5 years ago has been found alive wandering through Brazil.
Anton Pilipa, a Canadian man who went missing in 2012, was found wandering in the Amazon jungle in northern Brazil in 2017, 5 years later. Pilipa, who suffers from schizophrenia, had disappeared from Vancouver and, without identification, traveled across 10 countries, Canada, the US, Mexico, and several others, before ending up in Brazil. He survived by scavenging for food and accepting help from kind strangers along the way. He had no passport or means of identification and was initially thought to be a beggar when spotted by a Brazilian police officer. After extensive efforts, including international cooperation, his family was contacted. Pilipa was then reunited with his family in Canada, and his health began improving with the help of treatment. Syrian refugee.
We're very happy and excited that he made it safe. We couldn't believe ourselves, we're worried until last minute we saw them.
Adnan Karsa, an 11-year-old Syrian boy, was reunited with his family in Saskatoon after being separated by the Syrian war for over 6 years. Adnan and his grandmother had initially fled to Canada, but Adnan was separated from his family. The emotional reunion came when Adnan's relatives, who had been waiting for years, finally brought him back together with his parents. The heartwarming reunion was shared in September 2023, marking the end of a long separation due to the impact of the war. Veteran surprising. It doesn't have to be the same blood to form a strong bond. In 2019, Sean Dodd, a U.S. The Army veteran, was deeply surprised when his battle buddy from Iraq, Jesse Burr, traveled across the country to surprise him on his birthday after more than a decade apart. The two had served together in 2003 with the 4th Infantry Division, and although they briefly met in 2010, they had not seen each other for years. During their time in service, they both experienced the loss of a close commander and stayed in touch to support each other. Jesse's thoughtful gesture included sending Sean a handmade U.S. flag in 2019, a symbol of their strong friendship. Reunion after 21 years. In 2000, 3-year-old Abdo Juma from Egypt was separated from his mother when he boarded a train that left his home village. After this incident, Abdo's family lost contact with him, and for over 2 decades, his whereabouts remained a mystery. For 21 years, his mother never gave up hope of finding him. Finally, the family was emotionally reunited with Abdo, who was now an adult. The reunion was deeply emotional, as Abdo had grown up without his family, and his mother had longed for this moment. It was a powerful reminder of hope and love, even after such a long separation. 3 sisters reunited.
You think about your upbringing. What are your hopes for your sisters?
I just hope they had both gone together to the same people, because I was the oldest. At least if they were together, they would have each other, I need to know if they're all right.
Well, they are okay.
Are they?
We found your sister.
Christine's story is nothing short of heartbreaking and heartwarming all at once. As a young girl, she was separated from her sisters, Carolyn and Catherine, in a deeply traumatic way, taken from their mother by social services late at night. For 63 years, she lived without knowing what became of her family. But here's the best part. Her sisters were not just together all those years. They were actively searching for her too. And finally, after decades of longing and unanswered questions, Christine reunited with her sisters in 2019, and the emotions were overwhelming. Hugs, tears, and decades of love poured out in one unforgettable moment. Family truly finds its way back. Roshani Pretty.
It's weird loving someone so much that you don't know.
Roshani Prittis' story is nothing less than a roller coaster of emotions. Born into severe poverty in Sri Lanka, her mother made the devastating decision to give her up for adoption at just 6 weeks old to make sure she lives her best life. Adopted by the Prittis family in Australia, Roshani found a life filled with love and opportunities. She thrived, even chasing her dream as a singer on Australian Idol and The X Factor, reaching #1 on iTunes. But no matter how much she achieved, something felt incomplete. After 28 years, Roshani finally reconnected with her birth mother through a search that brought both tears and closure. Okay, why am I crying now? Let's move on to the next story. 20 years in the making.
Union for a Utah mother and her biological son, 20 years in the making. This comes after they unknowingly worked in the same hospital the past 2 years.
This story feels like something out of a movie. After 20 long years, Utah mom Holly Shear reunited with her son Benjamin, whom she had placed for adoption after giving birth as a teenager. What makes this even more incredible is that they unknowingly worked at the same hospital for 2 years before reconnecting. Holly had chosen adoption at 15, knowing it was the best path for her baby, though it was a painful decision. She stayed in touch with the adoptive family until Benjamin was 3. Years later, Holly sent Benjamin a message on Facebook, which eventually led to a heartfelt reunion over dinner. Finding out they'd crossed paths at work? Pure fate. Honestly, this one got me right in the feels. Kidnapped from home.
Mohammed Shanawaz Asghar has been reunited with his family. The 6-year-old was kidnapped from his Kensington home in Cape Town on Wednesday morning.
In a story that's equal parts terrifying and heartwarming, 6-year-old Mohammed Shanawaz Asghar reunited with his family just 2 days after being abducted from his home in Kensington, Cape Town. On that dreadful morning, 6 men stormed into the house and took Mohammed, leaving his family helpless. Despite the horror, a multidisciplinary police team worked tirelessly, and Mohammed was found safe near Kaya Licha, still in his school uniform with his backpack untouched. The family is overjoyed to have him back, but remains tight-lipped about the details, especially regarding a possible ransom. Honestly, this is such a relief. Let's all breathe easy for a moment. Going back home. 4-year-old Rebecca Lewis, lovingly known as Becky, reunited with her family after a terrifying ordeal. She was kidnapped by a family acquaintance, West Wild Hogs, and found nearly 700 miles away in Memphis, Tennessee. Thankfully, her safe return to Lakeland, Florida, brought relief and smiles to her loved ones. When Becky arrived at the airport, dressed in a red top and white skirt, she beamed with joy, even thanking reporters for bringing her home. Despite everything, she remained cheerful and brave, a true little hero. Reunion after 50 years. Melissa Highsmith was just 21 months old when she was kidnapped from her family's apartment in Fort Worth. 51 years later, a 23andMe DNA test led to a heartwarming reunion. In an unexpected twist, Melissa and her mother, Alta Apantenko, discovered they had been living only 20 minutes apart all these years. For Alta, the moment felt like a dream. Melissa, who endured a tough life with her abductors, is now focused on rebuilding bonds with her family. Their reunion has been dubbed a Christmas miracle, truly a story of hope after decades of heartache. Together again.
A child kidnapped at birth. 17 years later, it is an ending that surprises in more ways than one. Deborah Potter reports from South Africa.
After 17 long years of searching, this South African couple finally reunited with their daughter, Zephanie, who was kidnapped from their hospital room just days after birth. The heart-wrenching story started when Zephanie was stolen, leaving her parents devastated and unsure of her fate. For years, they held on to hope, even celebrating her birthday every year. The miracle came when their other daughter, Cassidy, noticed a girl at school who looked just like Zephanie. A photo sent to her parents confirmed their suspicions, leading to a tearful reunion. Zephanie had been living nearby all these years, and now, after a roller coaster of emotions, the family is together again.
That's when Morning sent me the photo of her the first time, and I burst out. I got that feeling inside, and I just grabbed my heart and said, "This is my daughter."
Safe at last.
It was an emotional reunion as 4-month-old Jakayla arrived home, but it was a much different mood earlier today as the family anxiously wanted to know where the baby went and when she'd be coming home.
After a tense few hours, 4-month-old Jakayla was finally reunited with her family in Birmingham, Alabama. The baby had been taken from her crib early Friday morning by her 14-year-old aunt, who wasn't supposed to be there due to her being in DHR custody. The family was frantic, and an Amber Alert was quickly issued. However, thankfully, police followed a tip that led them to the downtown library, where both the baby and the teen were found safe. What a relief for everyone! Just goes to show how precious family moments really are when you've been through something like that.
You have everybody on pins and needles, and this baby just 4 months. And now I'm glad she's home, safe.
A long-awaited reunion.
This has been a long road. What wound up happening is we got lucky. She's in pretty bad shape, is my understanding.
After 12 long years, Sabrina Allen has been found and is finally back home. Sabrina was kidnapped in 2002 by her mother, Dara Lawrence, during a visitation. Despite being a non-custodial parent, Lawrence kept her daughter hidden for over a decade, even moving them to Mexico. For years, Sabrina's father didn't give up, following every lead and working with the FBI. In a recent breakthrough, Sabrina was located in a small apartment in Mexico. While Sabrina is said to be struggling mentally, her father is just relieved she's safe. He's patiently waiting for the day she's ready to reconnect. Sometimes the wait is worth it.
Special operation was launched about 4 weeks ago when investigators got a tip, and that tip led authorities to a small apartment where Sabrina and her mother were living.
Lost but found. Lucas McClish, a 34-year-old from Boulder Creek, went for a hike that turned into a 10-day ordeal in the Santa Cruz Mountains. He got lost in Big Basin Redwood State Park after fires altered familiar landmarks. When he missed a Father's Day dinner, his family sounded the alarm, and a massive search effort began. Equipped with minimal supplies, Lucas survived by drinking water from natural sources.
I would just make sure that I drank at least a gallon of water every day. Getting close to the end of it, my body needed food and some type of substance.
And rationing his energy. Rescuers found him in a remote canyon after hearing his calls for help. After reuniting with loved ones, Lucas expressed deep gratitude for everyone who searched for him. Well, that's enough hiking for a year for him, right?
Just a pair of my pants and my pair of hiking shoes and that hat. I had a flashlight and a pair of folding scissors, like a Leatherman tool.
Family's long wait.
Why would a seemingly happy husband and father disappear, vanish? Wait until you see what his family learns when they finally find him.
Richard Hoagland seemed to have it all. A happy family, a beautiful home, and a stable life in Indiana. But one day in 1993, he vanished without a trace, leaving his wife and 2 young sons behind. For 23 years, his family thought he was gone forever. But turns out Richard was alive in Florida, living under the identity of a deceased man, Terry Szymanski. He remarried, had another child, and built a completely new life. The truth surfaced thanks to a curious relative of the real Terry. Honestly, this story feels like a real-life plot twist nobody asked for.
I believe that he got caught up with the wrong people, got carried away and over his head in something.
Reunited after years.
This international abduction case coming to a close. She used social media to track down her mom.
Imagine spending 14 years without knowing where your loved ones are. That was Angelica Salgado's reality after her daughter, Jackie Hernandez, was abducted at an early age in Claremont, Florida. Jackie was taken by her father and raised in Mexico, far from her mother's reach. But in 2021, the unimaginable happened. Now 19, Jackie tracked down her mom using Facebook. After confirming her identity, they finally reunited at the border in Texas. It's proof that love can truly find its way home.
We're just excited to have some closure for the family. At this point, we're actively working with the FBI and other agencies about trying to apprehend, my understanding is, the father of the juvenile.
Hope restored. In Nigeria, over 300 schoolboys have been reunited with their families after a terrifying 6-day ordeal. Some gang members stormed their school in the northwest, abducting the students and taking them into the bush. Boko Haram claimed responsibility for this abduction, which left families and the entire country in anguish. The boys were brought back on buses, greeted by President Muhammadu Buhari, before returning to their loved ones. Their parents were so happy and relieved, but the pain of what they endured remains. A father's relentless hope. In China, a girl kidnapped at just 6 years old has been reunited with her family after 9 heartbreaking years. Chen Jing was abducted by child traffickers in 2005 while walking home from school. Her father arrived to pick her up, only to discover she was gone. For nearly a decade, he traveled across the country with her photo, tirelessly searching. Now 15, Cheng Ying used the internet to seek help and eventually connected with someone who led her back to her family. A DNA test confirmed their bond, and local police arrested 6 suspects tied to the trafficking. It's a bittersweet ending to this story of love and persistence. Found after years.
I want to tell you in hopes that he would return, but she's gone.
After 11 long years, a mother reunited with her daughter, who was found in an orphanage in Nicaragua. When the girl was just 5, her father took her for a weekend visit and never returned. Afraid to involve the police due to his threats, the mother endured years of wondering if she was safe. The now 15-year-old shared that her father took her to Nicaragua, made her believe her mom had abandoned her, and eventually left her in an orphanage. A nun working there connected the dots and reached out to the mom through Facebook. It's incredible how fate and a little help from technology brought them back together.
I think we found your mom. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I can't believe it.
Survivor's strength.
A little more humane for you to keep you quiet. He said, I'm thinking of a shock collar. You know, they're like dogs.
Abby Hernandez was just 14 when she was kidnapped on her way home from school in 2013. For 9 long months, she was held captive in a soundproof shipping container in New Hampshire. Her captor, Nathaniel Kibbe, subjected her to unimaginable cruelty, even putting a shock collar on her to control her every move. Despite the horror she faced, Abby found a way to survive. In 2014, fearing police were closing in on him, her kidnapper released her on a lonely road. When Abby finally made it home, she was weak and shaken, but alive. Her family and friends couldn't believe she was standing there safe again. Well, this one's an incredible story of strength and survival against such darkness.
He put it on me and he told me, okay, try and scream. I just slowly started to raise my voice and then it shocked me. So he's like, okay, now you know what it feels like.
Lost identity. Paul Fronczak spent years chasing the truth about his identity, and the answers he finally uncovered were nothing short of shocking. As a boy, Paul discovered newspaper clippings revealing that he had been kidnapped as a newborn in 1964, but was later found by the FBI and reunited with his parents. Yet something never felt right, because he didn't look like his family. Decades later, a DNA test confirmed his suspicions. He wasn't Dora and Chester Fronczak's biological son. Instead, Paul discovered his real name was Jack Rosenthal, and he even had a twin sister named Jill, whose fate remains unknown. Well, truth can truly be stranger than fiction sometimes. And now, let us move on to our subscriber pick of the day.
The story about parents' love and an epic search for a lost son.
In 1997, Guo Gangtang's 2-year-old son, Guo Xinzhen, was abducted from their home in Liaocheng, Shandong province. Despite an unsuccessful police investigation, Guo Gangtang never gave up on his search. For 24 years, he traveled across China on his motorcycle looking for his son. In 2021, a breakthrough came when DNA testing linked Guo Xinzhen to his biological parents, leading to a reunion in July 2021. Guo Gangtang's relentless search was part of a larger national effort by the Chinese government, which launched the Tuanyuan operation to help reunite missing children. His quest was so inspiring that it was later adapted into the movie Lost and Love.